Hello, everybody. Welcome back to your midweek remedy with me, James Thacker. I hope you're doing well. It's a best one today. The sun is out. The sun has finally grown some confidence. We've been waiting for it. I think the temperature is hovering around the 26-degree mark, but compared to what's been happening over the last couple of weeks, it's an absolute godsend. And I know that everyone was out and about over the bank holiday weekend having a grand old time. So I hope you are all enjoying yourselves and enjoying this blissful weather. I'm about to go to training, and therefore the vest is out because I'm definitely not training in anything more. In this heat, I'm going to be sweltering. But had a good bank holiday weekend myself. I actually took my dad to the Belfry golf resort for his 60th. I planned it for a long time. It was something that I was massively looking forward to, and it was a really fantastic weekend away. Bar having to watch Chelsea win the Champions League in the evening, which, to be honest, I'm so surprised that they actually managed to do. But fair play to them. As a Spurs fan, and the big rivalry that Spurs and Chelsea have, wasn't too happy to see it. But you got to say fair play. They deserved it at the end of the day. So well done to Chelsea, and I'm sure the Chelsea supporters next season will be fully rubbing that in everyone's faces. I will come to expect. But the golf was absolutely fantastic, and we got so lucky with the weather. I was really kind of bricking it a little bit in the run up to it. It was like the forecast was cloudy, rain. I thought, oh no, I've been looking forward to this for so many months, and it's one of the only times in your life where you get to play such a nice course. And but we got there. It was a little bit cloudy in the morning, and then all of a sudden, just unbelievable sunshine for the rest of the weekend. So Dad and I were kind of rubbing our hands together and saying, "Yeah, we've completely lucked out here." Didn't play too badly. Haven't played in a long time. So some were good, some were very very bad. I definitely played better on the first day. On the Sunday, we played a course called Brabazon, which I think is where the British Masters was played 2 or 3 weeks ago. And that is by far and away the hardest course I've ever played. I think I shot 147, which is like 2 rounds of golf put into one. So absolutely atrocious. But overall, enjoyed it, and it was just so nice to actually be around nature. We actually got coupled with a couple of other players. So on the first day, we played with a couple of guys from Birmingham, like such lovely lads. One guy was an ex-marine, another guy was a teacher, and we were just going around, chatting rubbish with them, really, and hacking the ball around. And then a couple of guys from York the second day who I think matched our level, which helped because we didn't have a couple of scratch golfers looking at their watches going, "Come on, guys, let's get on with it." But no, really had a fantastic weekend. And one thing I did reflect on actually from the kind of golf experience was how much golf and sport in general can teach us. And I guess the reflections I had on golf in particular is that in golf you have 18 holes, and every hole you'll have from 3 to 5 shots. I'm sure most of you know this, but for those that don't, but I did think, in terms of what it should teach you, it's a game that requires so much patience, and so that's something that I notoriously not had a lot of. And also, you need to persevere in order to stay good, because when you start, and I lost it mentally on Sunday. I really did. I played so badly, but to try and stick with it and to keep going, because if you're 5 down and you're having a bad round, in terms of 5 holes down, you've got 13 left to play, you're thinking, oh, I really don't know if I can do this, because you're out there for about 5 hours. And I wanted to stick at it, but I thought, well, you know what, let's just take it shot by shot. And I drew some parallels with life, and obviously without trying to make it too deep and a little bit cliche. But I did see, as each shot that you take in golf is like an opportunity to make your situation better. You can almost override or forget or forgive what had happened before if you make this next shot better. And I think that's really cool, because that's also a lot like life, where things might not necessarily be going so great. Take the next opportunity to make that better. gain some perspective. Okay, let's focus on the next thing. Let's focus on that next opportunity that I can give some energy, to those around me, to myself. I can go act on something that's going to lead to positive consequences for myself. And I thought that's actually pretty cool, and something that I really reflected on. When things aren't going so well for you in life, it's always to remember that there's always good. It's always good to remember that there's going to be another opportunity for you to turn things around, for you to make things better for yourself. And you know what? If you have a bad hole, if you have a bad experience, then there's always the next hole. There's always the next time. There's the learnings that we can take into that next hole, and you can always then evolve. And then you know what? If it turns out you've had a bad round, then you can look at that round as a whole. What went badly, go fix it, make it better for next time. Go practice, go learn, take that opportunity to make things better. If you had a great round, then again you can still always be better, but you can also enjoy that good round, and hopefully I will have one next Friday when I'm when I'm playing with the with some of the boys from work. But yeah, I just thought golf's a great game because it gives you a chance to get out there in the open. Is a chance to go and express yourself. If you get things wrong, then there's a chance for retribution in the next shot. And I think a lot of that is like life. And I thought that was one of the great reflections I had from the weekend, is that I think we should look for little lessons that these games teach us. And also, if we're looking to instill more of these disciplines in ourselves, like patience, like perseverance, like gaining perspective, then we should encourage ourselves and others to kind of go into those activities, those sports, those practices that will develop those kind of disciplines, because it will then start to transpire into every part of your life. And so I think, obviously, we'd all love to be going out playing golf, art, football, whatever your interests are that will inhibit these great traits in yourself. We'd love to do it all the time. A lot of us can't, unfortunately, but try and do it as much as possible. And something I'm going to look to do in the future is kind of stick with golf. And as much as it's seen as kind of like the old person sport and something that's maybe a little bit out of trend or out of fashion, I definitely think there's a place for it, and it's something that I think can massively benefit me. So that's one thing I took away from the weekend, other than just having a fantastic weekend with my dad. And yeah, I hope to go back to the Belfry. It's an absolutely stunning place, not just the golf course, but the hotel as well. It's vast, very, very big. But I couldn't recommend it highly enough. And it was an experience I'm very, very grateful to have had. The Brabbers and I will be back, because you firmly kicked my ass this weekend, but I will practice and I will be back, mark my words. So the next topic, the second topic I want to cover in this midweek remedy. There was a case of an athlete recently in Naomi Osaka, who's a professional tennis player, who refused to do some, I think it was some television duties or some interviews, because she'd been stating that she'd undergone some mental health issues as a result of these interviews. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a professional sports person having to come under intense scrutiny, not just from the newspapers, not just from your peers, not just from fans, but always just getting asked questions by journalists, reporters, always in your face, before the event, after the event, in between. It's absolutely relentless. And I can imagine that for her it got to a point where she said, it's enough. I can't actually do it for the sake of my mental well-being. And I'm sure this has happened so many times before. Some people love it, some people love the limelight and they thrive in it, and some people really crumble. And I think this is someone that's not maybe used to it. I think some people we forget really that we now put sports people up on a pedestal where it makes them celebrities by proxy of being a sports person. But that sports person, all they've been training to do their whole life is just play the game, play sport. And unfortunately, we've made it a necessity now where every sports person needs to also be a brand ambassador, have sponsorships, have the ability to speak publicly in these interviews and things like that. When actually, when you strip it down, sports people play sport. It's quite a simple thing. I mean, obviously they practice relentlessly, and especially tennis players, they'll to the ability to swing the racket. I can't even draw parallels to what that's like in terms of perfecting that skill. But I thought when I saw all the kind of negative press around and the reaction around her not doing the interviews, I was just, I mean, again, not surprised, but disappointed, and also disappointed at the tennis association and in their response to it. I think she pulled herself out of Roland Garros because I think there was too much media frenzy or too much attention around it. I think they actually said that she might have to pull out as part of the rules of not doing the media coverage. And I thought, when did that become more important than the sport itself? When did the journalism facilitation become more important than actually getting the athlete out on court in a healthy mindset and in a physically good place as well? And I just it does bode quite badly for the sport of tennis in that they obviously, from this episode you can see that the sporting association and the powers that be around these big events in tennis only care about the commercial side and not the athlete's welfare. And I don't know that much about tennis. My friend Ollie Warren will I'm sure steer me correctly, and I'd love to talk to him about this topic. But what it seems to me from the outside is that they've been so brutal in terms of one person not wanting to do some media responsibilities, and all of a sudden we're talking about $15,000 fines and being withdrawn from competitions and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, they've expressed that they've got mental health issues because of exactly what's happening. And for you to force them into that scenario again in order to play the sport that they love, in it's super counterintuitive. I think it's very tone deaf to what's happening at the moment, especially with people opening up and coming out about mental health issues and trying to get some progressivism in this space. And yeah, it's just a little bit disheartening to see. I think it's a fascinating thing that's going on at the minute. So after this podcast, go read up about it and see for yourself. And I think, what's good to see is so many athletes have kind of flocked to her aid and are supporting her in doing this. I think there's a guy called Kyrie Irving in the NBA who might have been fined for the same thing, for not doing his press responsibilities. It just seems crazy to me how invasive some journalists insist on being, and we as society insist on being into these sports people's lives. I know that in the NBA in particular, they are so invasive in terms of the locker room and actually going, the press being able to access the locker room, which for a lot of other sports, that's a very personal space. And I can imagine that some athletes can feel like there's absolutely no escape from it. And I can imagine that's incredibly overwhelming. And I feel bad for Naomi Osaka here, because I completely understand, why it would get to that point when it's so relentless, when you feel like everything you're doing is being judged. You get scrutinized if you have a bad performance, and then people are asking you exactly about that performance, trying to pick it apart straight after it happens. I can imagine that's incredibly stressful. And also, not just the fact that you have to go through that, but the mannerisms and the way you have to deliver things also takes effort. It takes strain. It's strain on the brain and the body. And I can imagine that, recently she's probably just had enough, and I can completely see why. And I think there needs to be a overall attitude change, not just from sports federations and people in charge of sport and the events, but society as a whole, not demand and not have this culture of instant, just you want so much content and we need to hear from the people. And actually, let's take a step back and think about, these are people, they're not machines. They can't just churn out interview after interview content upon training, upon all these things that are the real. It's supposed to be the real entertainment. The real entertainment is supposed to be the sport, right? So I think we need to take a step back and have gain some perspective. But that was one thing that I was a little bit disheartened to see this weekend, among just some other not so great stuff in the football world around racism and that kind of stuff. That's a large topic, and I don't want to cover it off in such a short space of time on the midweek remedy. But again, we've seen more cases of people being racially abused. I think Raheem Sterling and Kyle Walker, after their performance in the Champions League final. Um, again, not surprising, incredibly disappointing to see, and I don't know when this stops. I don't know what it's going to take for the social media organisations to take some proper action. I am seeing people get arrested now, but probably not enough for these kind of things. And honestly, I really do scratch my head as to what to do if not to impose these proving identification when you're signing up to social media platforms to ensure that you don't abuse anyone. I don't understand and why these social media organisations haven't acted yet. It seems crazy to me, but hopefully that gets better. And that's it for the midweek remedy this week. It's sorry that ended on a rather somber note, but it's important to mention. But yeah, go read up about the issues that I mentioned. I think they've all had sufficient news coverage, and if you aren't aware of them already, it's important that you do, especially if you're interested in sport. But just societally, I think it's of interest because you got to think about where we're headed. And in this world, I believe in people power, and people have the potential to change things and move with our feet and really make voices heard. So if we speak out about these things, then maybe, just maybe, things will change for the better. So it's important that we're educated. It's important that we're informed, and go voice your opinion. Go get an informed opinion, and go tell people about it. But anyway, have a fantastic rest of the week, everyone. Enjoy the sunshine. Honestly, it's absolutely glorious. I feel like we've all earned it through a very, very difficult 14, 15 months. I lose track now, but we're in June. Blimey. Anyway, stay safe, people. I'll speak to you very soon. See you later.